Hello, hello, welcome back. We are currently sitting on our Omega pilot, and you'll understand a little bit later why, but I wanted to actually talk more about the Alpha pilots. The only reason I can't use the Alpha pilots to talk about the Alpha pilots here is because when you go and view certain things as an Alpha pilot, it does not show you all of the available information. So we're going to go ahead and head to the market here. We're talking about our alpha pilots and what they're going to end up in when they hit Tech 8. We're about 2 months away from Tech 8, and realistically, we're only a month and a half. Um, Given the amount of skill points we're getting, the Concord skill points, the skill points from updates, we're only actually about 45 to 50 days away from our alphas hitting that Omega bridge. After that point in time, the alphas will be transferred into a new series, which will be our Tech 8 to Tech 10 series. So it'll be called T8 to T10. Um, and that will come with some changes to some rules. We'll discuss that a little bit later when that becomes relevant. Um, but just know that when those characters hit Tech 8 and become Omega, that's not where the series ends for them. The series of Alpha to Omega will end at the first day that we actually become Omega. Um, but after that, it will start the new series of T8 to T10. So we're just starting our planning and looking into the future. We're going to fit up a bunch of different ships using the Sweet ship fitting calculator. And we're just going to kind of look at what we're going to be doing with these ships. We'll go over the ships in the market, and we'll look at some of the skills we're going to need. And overall, it should just be a very comprehensive video of what I think about and how I'm looking at what you guys want to see as well. I put out a poll after yesterday's video went live, and that poll went and asked you guys what ship you want to see me fly for the next 6 months from Tech 8 all the way to Tech 10. Um, it won't be the only ship we will fly because I do have plans to fly at least one other ship. That one you don't have a choice in. But if you guys vote overwhelmingly for a certain ship, I will focus on that ship for our Tech 8 to Tech 10 series. Right now, you have the choice of any faction battleship other than the really expensive ones. So, for example, here, we won't be able to get into a Marshal, a Nestor, or a Varghest, and we won't be able to have access to the special battleships. But you do have the option in that poll to choose the Rattlesnake, the Macarial, the Balgorn, the, the Nightmare, or the Vindicator for what we will be going into when we hit Tech 8. Right now, our most reasonable choice, based on what we've been doing currently, and we'll get a little bit of extra bonuses too when we get into it, or if we choose to go into it, is the Rattlesnake. The Rattlesnake is going to get bonuses from our previous skills that we've been going into, all of our small weapon systems. The Rattlesnake is going to be getting bonuses from our other missile skills, along with our other drone skills. So that's why this particular ship makes the most sense for us to choose and fly. How you doing, Snoopy? Good to see you. I will probably never remember to call you Sarah. Hey, Azim, good to see you. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. So, using our previous skills, we're going to get bonuses to our weapon systems, missiles and drones, and in particular, we will be getting bonuses to our low slot weapon upgrades. Where are you? Oh my god, there's so many pages here. And it will be drone damage amplifiers that would be getting our bonuses. The drone damage bonuses will actually be getting drone damage amplifiers will be getting a bonus to their activation time from our previous skills. Especially since if we go for the Rattlesnake, we will also be skilling into those lower end missile and drone skills in the advanced category, which will provide the extra 1 or 2 seconds of activation time. I don't actively use activation time when I'm flying my ships. It's just a nuisance for me, so the times where it becomes useful to me are times where I need to just out DPS something. It's not common for any of my ships in high set to have to out DPS something, but the Rattlesnake in particular is one of those ships that is actually capable of, when in a fleet, and properly fit, it could do like Tech 10 Inquisitor anomalies. It can do the 5 million ISK or 5.5 million ISK laboratory missions with very little problems. Now the question that I'm still debating in my head is whether or not the Rattlesnake can actually kill a high-sec cyan. Um, and that's a whole other question. I'll be looking at 2 different fits for the Rattlesnake in particular, and actually all of the ships. I'm going to be looking at a brawling fit and a sniping fit on all of them. But the sniping fit is just going to be considered the DPS fit, since most other faction battleships would only be brawling. And it would just be like a tank fit versus a DPS fit rather than like the Rattlesnake having that flexibility of range. Yeah, so far the Rattlesnake is winning on the vote. There has currently been 6 votes. 1 for a Balgorn, 1 for a Nightmare, and 4 for the Rattlesnake. If you are looking to vote for the Vindicator or the God, I can't remember the heckin' name of it. It was the Vindicator or the Mercurial. You can choose other and comment which one you want to see and perhaps why you want to see it. So definitely vote on that channel, on the YouTube channel, and let me know. So we'll get started with the Rattlesnake. Rattlesnake gets a base damage for drones of 480%. Now, the Rattlesnake itself only comes with two drone slots. So, taking two drone slots and multiplying their damage by 480%, that essentially means that the Rattlesnake is going to be having, what is that, 6 or 8 equivalent drones worth of damage out of those two drone slots. It's almost 10 drones worth of damage from those two drone slots. Something else, another bonus that it gets is 200% effective hit points to the large drones. That does include the sniper drones and the wardens and stuff. So any large drone will be getting that bonus. Using that bonus, we can utilize those drones in Dormant Realms very easily. Hello, Jenner. Welcome. Welcome. We're just going to be discussing a lot of things. It's going to be a lot of math and fitting and not very much flying. So our first skill-based bonus is going to be Large Drone Operation, Advanced Large Drone Operation, which will give us 12% drone damage per level, which does go on top of that previous drone damage roll bonus. So all of this kind of stacks together. It does not multiply together, but they are cumulative. So in total, after 5 levels, that is an additional 60% drone damage on top of that 480%, which gives us a 540% drone damage bonus. So when we're fitting the Rattlesnake, we're going to be wanting to put drone speed rigs on this. The drone speed rigs give activation time bonuses to the drones for their firing speed. The faster that those drones are firing at this extremely high level of damage will give us a wild amount of DPS without having to do a whole lot of extra. So the next part of that advanced large drone operation is going to be drone command range. This will make sure that our drones can fly out to a large distance. So we normally would have a 40-kilometer drone command range, and now we will have a 90-kilometer drone command range. In the past, this has worked a little differently for drones, and various updates have come through. At the point in time that I am talking to you on 6/13/2025, this drone command range is only for the flight range of the drones. It does not affect the lock range of drones or the firing range of drones. Um, those are completely separate from this. So drones such as like a hobgoblin, an ogre. Drones such as an ogre will have a drone command range of 33 kilometers, 40 on our ship normally. And they have to actually fly out and attack a target. So they will be limited to the drone command range, however far that ends up becoming. If we are using a sentry drone, which has no flight capabilities, we would be using something like guards in this case, where the ship itself can fly away from these guards and still command them, but the guards themselves will have a range that they can fire out to, since they do not fly. They have no flight velocity, they have no orbital speed. They will sit right where they're launched, and they will fire however far that they can reach. With the rattlesnake, in particular, it will have like a 90-kilometer drone command range, which means the rattlesnake can be 90 kilometers away from something like a prototype guard. And the guards can be firing another 120 kilometers after bonuses and things like that. And still be completely effective in what they're doing. That's what makes guard drones and sentry drones just so important to something like a rattlesnake or a Dominix. If you've ever seen my Dominix videos, you'll notice that I do use sniper guards. Where are you? These guys here. And these guys just tear through everything in seconds. So flying two rattlesnakes with a very similar mindset to the Dominic's Navy battleships that I fly normally will provide us a huge bonus in our income when we hit Tech 8. So I'm starting to ramble a little bit. Let's go back to the rattlesnake. There's just so much information that comes to mind when I'm talking about the rattlesnake in particular, because there's two different weapon systems here that are working together. So our next bonus for the rattlesnake is going to be Advanced Battleship Command, and what that does for us is we will get a 12% missile torpedo kinetic damage, or per level, which is another 60% damage on that element type, on that damage type. So it's not a very good bonus in general, unless you have a very, very specific nanocore, which we do have. The next one here is 12% missile torpedo thermal damage per level, and that is another 60% damage overall. Across the board, the missiles do, 4 types of damage: thermal, kinetic, EM, and explosive, electromagnetic, and explosive. So we're actually only going to be receiving half of this total bonus across the damage of our missiles. It's not, if missiles were only one damage type, you would get the full 60% from one of these, which just makes the rattlesnake a little hard to work with when you're trying to fit it. The last bonus we're getting from this battleship command bonus is 4% shield resistance per level. This gives us a 20% extra shield resistance right off the bat. This is huge for a shield-based ship. It makes the Rattlesnake one of the tankiest ships that you could ever fly in New Eden. Let's go ahead and jump over to Suite, where I can pull up our rattlesnakes that we have fitted yesterday. Were the ones that we have fit yesterday. This will be the only ship that I have pre-fit, because we did fit that at the end of yesterday's video. If you particularly want to see that, go ahead and check out yesterday's video, but we'll go through the fit here. We're not going to include implants right now, and let's go ahead and keep our Rattlesnake Dark Halo core for now, because we will actually have the Dark Halo core. I should probably consider just removing this. I don't know. Anyway, this will be kind of the idea that we're going to go for. We can apply the nanocore to any of the ships that we go into at Tech 8. So we're going to put this nanocore on all the ships for a fair comparison. This particular fit from yesterday is going to be a sort of basic high-sec brawler. It will be using PIF C-type large missile launchers. Actually, is this my brawler? I can't remember if this is actually my brawler now. Adaptive. Yeah, it's just a combined ship. It can brawl, or it can sit at range if it needed to. So we're going to fit all 5 PIF C-type large missile launchers. You can see here the bonuses are being applied of that 60% increase in kinetic and thermal damage, which only really, when you combine that across all of the damage types, is only actually 30% for the combined total of increased damage. If I'm wrong, it's maybe wrong. It may be wrong. It may be 60%. I'm really bad with, actual percentages. So don't take my actual word on that, whether it's 30 or 60%. But it is only half of your total damages coming in here, because it's shared between all of the damage types. The only reason we're not going for the large rapid missile launchers right now would be for when we want to sit outside of range of a laboratory mission, although I feel like that is not necessary. So let's just have a look real quick and see how large rapid missiles do. We're going to fit all of them with 5th C-type large rapid missile launchers. You'll see we lost a lot of our damage type here, but we're still maintaining just under 800 DPS on our rapids. And they will fire every 7 seconds. Rapids are really good for a quick clear time in high sec. They will, more often than not, they will outright kill a frigate, and they will two-shot a destroyer. And when you combine that with the drones just absolutely nuking everything, it just makes for a very comfortable and quick clear time. With the Rapids, we're going to have a 47-kilometer missile range, which is more than enough for high-sec missions. It is very rare when any ship in a high-sec mission will spawn outside of 40 kilometers. Those times that they spawn outside of that range, our drones will handle it much more effectively. So we may choose to go with the large rapids on this particular build, only for the fact that it is going to be probably our high-sec fit for normal mission running. Our mid slots here are going to be a Imperial Navy large energy Nosferatu, a Caldari Navy stasis web of fire, and a Republic Fleet target painter. The target painter here is a flex spot. You can put anything you really want to put here, whether it be a warp scrambler or another web of fire. All of these kind of things are going to be a good choice. We could also go with something like a group shield booster. Not the best option here, but it would increase the amount of healing we get just over time. It would be a nice basic healing amount. It may be what I choose to do. Just for those slightly harder missions once we hit Tech 10. But this ship should have no problems at all tackling some of our hardest missions, other than when a Cyan spawns. So we're going to keep that group shield booster here. I kind of like the idea of having it. And it will be using fuel, which I can use to show off how modules actually work like that. Alright, for our low slots, we're going to be looking at a 5th C-type large shield booster, which will be giving us about 914 shield boost amount per activation of 6 seconds. We're going to be looking at using 2 Pith C-type adaptive invulnerability fields and an all-around damage control if we can afford it. The other option for this, which is more likely for us to have right out the gate, it would be a basic damage control or an Imperial Navy damage control. It's most likely, unless we have the money for the more expensive one, I would go for an Imperial Navy damage control. The Imperial Navy damage control is going to give us a passive shield, armor, and hull resistance. I don't know why it says hull EM resistance 108%. It doesn't actually do that. And I can show you here that EM resistance is not any higher here, and it won't be in-game. That is just a typo in Suite. It should be the same as the other things here of 8.23%. Or is it like 16%? Something like that. Anyways, so this particular module has an activatable mode, which has a 13-second activation time and a 150-second downtime or reactivation time. When you activate this module, it will give you a ridiculous increase in resistances for 13 seconds. It basically makes you unkillable for 13 seconds. By activating this module, with all of our other modules active, the invulnerability fields and stuff, we will go from 80% shield EM resistance, 77% thermal resistance, 80% kinetic resistance, and 84% explosive resistance, up to 92, 91, 92, and 94. We can use this module to get out of a tight spot, such as, like, Dormant Realm 2, where this will become invaluable at the end of a Dormant Realm clear. With this module, we will go from our shields having an effective EHP of 306,000 up to 823,000. That is insane for 13 seconds. This is a very basic high-sec fit. Our total EHP during this activation is 1,016,000. Without that module active, we will be sitting at 378,000. Almost all of our health resides in our shield. So let's have a look at our healing and how that is being affected by our resistances. So our raw shield being 59,161 is not very high until you consider the resistances, which make it become that 306,000 effective hit points. So our raw healing across the board here, we have 128.77 HP per second of passive shield regeneration. And that is at 35%. If we crank this up to our maximum health, we're only getting 13 per second. So once we get to that like 30% effective hit points, we're gonna be almost maximizing our raw regeneration per second. Why do you say it's wrong? Once we actually calculate for our resistances, this ranges from our highest of 667 hit points per second all the way down to like 68 per second. It's not a whole lot, but when you're really struggling in a fight, and if you can maintain that sort of 30% shield or 35% shield, it really cranks up how much health you can start getting back from your passive regeneration. Likewise, our raw healing from our shield booster is going to be 175 per second, or 914 every 6.1 seconds. I usually like to look at the shield boost amount per however much the activation time itself is, because that tells you how much time in between heals that you have got to save yourself. Between each activation, you have about 6 seconds to try to get yourself out of danger, or into a point of health where you're going to be okay to survive for the next 6 seconds. When we look at the effective healing per second, that is 907 healing per second. If we calculate that out to 6 seconds, we're looking at around 5,000 effective hit points worth of healing. Remember, we're only actually healing 916 of this 59,000 number. But with our resistances, that equates to 5,443 every 6 seconds worth of effective hit points. That is a lot, and that is without activating our damage control. For 13 seconds, which is only just barely 2 of our activation times on our shield booster, those numbers crank way up. when this damage control is active, this is a massive amount of healing. It's actually insane. The raw healing is still the same. You're not getting any more raw healing out of that booster. But with these boosted resistances, you're going to be able to tank a lot more stuff. So this goes from that 5,400 every 6 seconds of effective hit points. Now you're going to be getting 2,437.24 per second every 6 seconds. So that effective goes all the way out to 623 hit points every 6 seconds of effective healing for only 13 seconds. That is massive to have this damage control. Damage controls are one of the most important tank modules that you should ever consider putting on. If you have no other choices, just throw one of these on there. You will not regret having it. Alright, so our last few modules are all going to be the same. They're going to be VAT drone damage amplifiers. We already own these modules from our prophecies, so we're just going to transfer them over. These will give our drones a damage bonus and an activation time adjustment. So naturally, our drones with our current fit will have a 1,923 DPS. When we activate one of these, it goes out to 2,168 per second. The drones we are currently using are test guards, which are literally like one of the worst drones in the game fitted here. And we're still making decent DPS. If we fit something like I don't see them here. If we fit something similar to like a Federation Navy guard or a prototype guard, it goes up. I'm hoping we can afford the Federation Navy guards, but I'm okay with using the prototype guards. So let's go ahead and fit the prototype guards, since that'll be the minimum of what we actually choose. So we've got two of these things here. These are those drones that have no flight velocity and they have all the range. but we can still use these in a brawling situation. It has been proven many times that these particular drones, the guards, have plenty of tracking speed, more than enough to handle everything in high sec, um, in a brawling scenario. Especially if you drop them on the warp in point, and then your ship actively goes and chases down whatever it is it's chasing down, these drones will become significantly better as they try to run away from your particular ship. As, like, enemies trying to run away from your ship. So my hope is we'll get our hands on Federation Navy, but prototype guards are fine, and Suite has not updated to include the newest version of these drones, which we got from the last event. I can't remember what they're called. It's like Compass or something like that. But we do have those as well. For our combat rigs on this particular ship, we're going to fit an anti-electromagnetic screen reinforcer. This will close the weakness in our shield. So without this item, we have normally a 68% shield resistance. Adding that extra electromagnetic resistance will put it up to 80%, which completely nullifies anyone trying to utilize that weakness. But that means we have a new weakness that we have to keep in mind, which is our thermal weakness. You could offset that if you were fine with the DPS you were outputting. You could drop one of these augmenters and throw on just like a cheap thermal screen reinforcer, which will completely negate that weakness as well. You don't even need one that's level 3. I think you only need like a very low end, like tier 1, maybe even prototype. Let's have a look here. Thermal. Yeah, so even at a level 1, you're closing that weakness. What I would personally do is keep the 2 drone speed augmenters, which are the ones that change the firing rate of our drones. And I would go with an integrated rig. Integrated rigs are highly useful for something like a rattlesnake, where it's trying to be the best of everything. So let's go ahead and do a mock-up of what I would personally do. So let's get a combat integration. If we can get our hands on one, 4P Universal might be the best option. We could also go with like a 3P Enhanced or a 2P Enhanced. But I would really try to get my hands on a 4P Universal or 4P Enhanced. But that's going to drive up your cost on this ship way more than what what we would need. So I'm going to show off what I would personally try to do, and then we'll look at what is probably actually going to happen. So I would go with a 4P Universal because the new enhanced ones are just kinda crazy. So what these do is you can put multiple types of rigs. You can put the same. It's so hard to explain. You can put 4 different individual types of rigs within the same category. So you can put 4 different shield related rigs in these modules. And they will get a percentage of their bonuses. In order to actually make use of one of these, you need multiple of each type of rig that you want to put into it. So in this case, I would have to put 4 of like shield boosting rigs, like the 30% shield boost amount rigs into this module, which will then output 70% of the value of that rig that you put into there. It doesn't combine them all into one. It just requires 4 or 8 of them. In this case, it's actually 8. It just takes all 8 of them to get that activation of the 70%. So it's going to cost you a lot of money, but you're going to be able to get multiple bonuses in the same rig slot. The only time integration is actually a good choice is when you need so many different things on your ship, so many different extra bonuses to your ship, that you don't mind losing effectiveness if you can just get those other bonuses that you want. So we're going to fit up some defensive rigs in here. We're going to go with some shield rigs. We'll go with Charge Economizer, which is a shield boost amount, which is the one I was talking about. This will actually only be providing us with 70% of that 30%. I believe that comes out to like a 20 something, 23%, something like that. It's 21%. Yeah, so we'll be getting 21% rather than 30% for a shield boost amount. Our next one I would choose. It would either be a shield amount bonus or a capacitor. Yeah, that 4P costs a lot of money, but this is like a dream to try to get this on the alpha accounts eventually. We will actually do a normal fit in just a moment, but I want to show you what I would do if I had like infinite money to put onto this ship. So I'm really hesitant on whether I want to go with shield amount or capacitor safeguard. My brain is telling me my capacitor will fail long before my shield fails. So I should go with the capacitor safeguard. That means our shield booster will require less capacitor to run every activation. After that, you would go with thermal, and you would go with electromagnetic. So that's the dream rig on that. You can see that it's not quite as good, but we are also getting bonuses to our shield amount, and our capacitor is going to be just a little bit better if we're running really hard. So what will likely happen, which I showed off earlier, is I'm just going to throw the thermal rig on there and call it a day. But if you had that little bit of money and all you wanted was the extra tank, like a universal 2P or an enhanced 2P are going to be your best friend for this. I am not sure what the enhanced 2P currently costs, so let me check that real quick. I mean, it's 3 billion to do this, but you're gonna get 80%, and you're not gonna need that many rigs, but you're only gonna get 2 bonuses rather than just the one from the standard rig. I think if you're just missing a little bit of tank, the 2P enhanced, if you have almost 3 billion ISK, definitely something to think about. Um, Snoopy is very correct in that sometimes it's just better to invest in a lower end integration. Because look at the difference. This universal, which is that 70% efficiency, is only 159 million. You can completely buy one of these very easily. And that would be probably an even better option for something really low end. But at this point, if you're getting 70% for 2 modules, you're maybe not necessarily needing the bonus there for the second item. I think if you're going to do integrations, you need to be going hard. So, I'm personally, when we get into Tech 8, we're just going to fit up a an electromagnetic shield resistance, which about 150 million, that's not bad for getting a large bonus to our weakest portion of our ship. We don't necessarily need this either in high sec, especially not at Tech 8. At Tech 8, we would almost be better off just throwing on the third drone speed augmenter and clearing out enemies faster. But I do intend on using the Rattlesnake in Dormant Realms, so the extra tank is going to be very necessary. That is if we go with the Rattlesnake. We could end up with a different ship. So that's why I'm kind of doing this video today, to show off how I would fit them. Because as a high-sec player, I don't have to consider someone with a barraging plant coming in and just nuking my shield before I can even do anything. I do, however, have to consider survivability and longevity in hard content, along with clear time. Alright, let's go back to our thing here. Shield rigs, EM 3. Alright, so that was our combat rigs. And now we've got the engineering rigs. Engineering rigs, we're gonna go all three the same, because right now it is not worth even considering the loss of effectiveness for having the same rig fitted. That capacitor recharge time is so much better on a shield-based ship, and on an armor-based ship, you might want to go with a mixture where it's recharge and capacitor amount. Yeah, I wish I could buy 3 nesters at Tech 8. That'd be wild. I'm lucky enough that I can even afford the faction battleships at Tech 8. And we're only just barely going to make it, because we've got like 45 to 50 days to try to make the last couple billion that I need. And all of that is going to come from doing the Concord Pass. And hopefully we'll get lucky with an event or something. Like, if we end up getting, like, a Waste Seeker event, we might do some of those and try to get some loot out of it. That'd be nice. With the current fit, and all 3 of those capacitor control circuit 3s, we're going to be looking at 47% of our capacitor is what we would naturally sit at running absolutely everything. Our nanocore here is going to provide us a drone damage bonus, an inertia modifier, and a drone damage bonus. That's about how far I want to take this Dark Halo core. If it was a thermomagnetic storm core, I would be fitting probably down to here to try to get the extra DPS across the board. And the implant I would go for would be an aerospace implant, just for that extra DPS. Yeah, I have a Starbeat core on my main account, but the alphas don't have that luxury. Yeah, I wish we had the higher damage nanocores for the alphas, but whatever. So all in all, this particular fit is going to give us a reasonable amount of tank and a very good amount of DPS for high sec. I would say that when you're first getting into battleships and you're not fully skilled into everything, about 2,500 is considered pretty low on the DPS scale for a high-sec battleship. 3,000 is about average for a high-sec battleship, and anything higher than like 3,200 is considered really good. A prime example of one of those S-tier battleships is going to be the Dominix Navy, the Dominix Special Ops, because they are going to be outputting anywhere between 3,500 DPS and up to 8,000 or 12,000 DPS as a passive DPS in high sec. And I do intend on showing off the Tech 9 Dominix, the Dominix Special Ops, and the Dominix Navy issue later on in the Tech 8 to Tech 10 series. So that covers our first fit for the Rattlesnake. Everything here on out will be a little bit faster to explain, but since the Rattlesnake is our most likely contender and our most comfortable ship to step into, we're absolutely going to be covering it a little bit heavier than the other ships. If it turns out that we end up going for another ship, this video will still be a good reference for what we would have done, depending on the ship that we chose. And this will also give you an idea if you're following along and you're not going down that missile and drone scenario. You can still follow along, and I can show you the other ships and what they can do. So, we're going to take a quick look at the complete tank Rattlesnake. I am going to remove this here. We're going to swap these drones to our sentry drones, which are going to be prototype guards. This has the same thing. Oh, nope, this has the drone damage here. Yeah, let's just go with shield here, because it's tank, not anything else. Tracking speed, inertia modifier, yeah. Okay, cool. So this fit is what I would use for our initial journey into Dormant Realm 2. Dormant Realm 2 is a very dangerous Dormant Realm for battleships in general. There are two ideas behind it. You either go full tank, or you go full DPS. Tank will take much longer to complete, but you're likely going to survive up until a certain point, in which case, then you will start struggling. And DPS is high risk, where you could lose your ship, but you're going to complete the mission extraordinarily quick, and hopefully quick enough that the enemies don't tear through your ship. So this build here is going to use the Pith C-type large missile launchers. All 5 of them are going to be large missile launchers to deal with the towers. Then we're going to have that same sort of Energy Nosferatu, Web of Fire, Target Painter, although it's more likely that in that particular Dormant Realm, we're actually going to be running 3 group shield boosters on here for the extra healing. And all 3 rattlesnakes will be running group shield boosters. So we'll have in total 9 group shield boosters in that Dormant Realm 10, very likely. Our low slots are going to start the same, and then you'll notice some changes. We've got a large shield booster. We've got an adaptive invulnerability field. We've got another adaptive invulnerability field. Preferably the all-round damage control, although let me swap that out for the other one so it's more fair. I said Imperial Navy. And then we've got another adaptive invulnerability field, a reactive shield hardener, and another large shield booster. So this one is kind of dangerous in terms of our capacitor, but we are cap stable without the shield booster running. Even without one of our even without the Nosferatu, we're still going to be cap stable on 1 shield booster. Let me find that Imperial Navy damage control. So with this particular fit, our raw hit points is 78,840. Is that because I'm going with a shield amount bonus? Yep, and a shield bonus. Okay, 78,000 raw hit points. Our resistances are 87%, 85%, 87%, and 89%. If we look at our raw healing is 386 per second, and we still have that same shield recharge time. If we start calculating for effective hit points, we are double our effective hit points here. We are at 650,000 effective hit points. 626,000 of those are on our shield. If we activate this damage control for 13 seconds, we shoot all the way up to 1,748,000 EHP. 1,682,000 of those are considered in our shield, with our resistances being 95, 94, 95, and 96. Really wild numbers. Our healing with both shield boosters going comes out to 8,000 per second while this is active. We have 3,000 per second without the damage control. Really good numbers. Now, if I was to only fit the EM resistance and drop the charge economizer and the field extender, we're still at 1.5 million EHP. With the damage control active. And we could technically go for our 2 drone speed augmenters, which is that activation time yet again, which still puts us at 2,458 DPS across all of our weapons. Not bad. I have a feeling it would work. It's definitely worth trying and seeing if it will work. We have the same engineering rigs across the board. We have the same prototype drones, and we have the same nanocore, other than now we have chosen the shield amount rather than the drone damage amount. Hopefully, when I have my hands on these, I will be able to turn them into gold nanocores, which will then allow me to have both of these bonuses from the damage and the shield, and that will make things a lot easier. So that is the tank fit. That is what I would choose to do on the Rattlesnake if we take it into Dormant Realms, and if we take it into normal high-sec encounters. At Tech 8, we won't need most of the tank that you're seeing here. But we will need it when we start doing our Dormant Realms. Alright, so the next one we're looking at is the Material. This is one of the ones, everything from here out I have not fitted yet. So we're going to play around with it, we're going to look. We're going to throw on autocannons, because that is the only way I accept a Material. C-type large autocannons, thank you. already starting off really strong in our DPS, already sitting at 2,000 without anything. Mid slots, we're going to need a Nosferatu. Probably going to go with Oop here or Imperial Navy. Probably Imperial Navy. And then we will grab a Web of Fire. Preferably, I would have a Caldari Navy, but that's just me. I know a lot of people like the Federation Navy on the material, just so it's themed correctly. We're going to fit 2 of these. So we'll have 2 Web Fires, and then we will have a Scrambler. Any kind of Scrambler will work, but the better they are, the longer range. Yep, it is on the potential list. It's under Other. All of the faction battleships, aside from the special ones and the Nestor and the Longest, are on the table. So we're going to go through all of them. Let's just grab a Federation Navy Scrambler. What this does for us is it will turn off the micro warp drive of any NPC ships and allow us to more comfortably deal with those ships, so we're not sitting there missing all the time. The Web of Fires will help us with that as well. It will slow the ship down to a point where it is no longer a problem for us for tracking. Alright, low slots. Let's get some weapon upgrades. I believe these use gyro stabilizers. We're going to go with Gistum C-types. We're going to remove 2 of these, 3 of these. We're going to go with a shield booster because it is a shield-based ship. Pitch C-type. Actually, no. Let's go with... Gist C-type, so we're staying within theme. Shield Hunters, we're going to go with Adaptive. We're going to go Gist. And that will give us more than enough tank. So now we're already sitting... Yeah, the material is very good for tanking and stuff like that, but it's sitting in high sec. So it's unlikely I will take this out to do PvP or anything like that, if we choose it. I love the warp speed on the material, but we've got to go through the stuff. So in combat rigs, you know darn well, in high sec, we're going to throw on some activation. Look at that. Already, our activation time is now at 3,000 has brought our DPS up to 3,624. We're going to go with all of our CCC rigs, capacitor control circuits. Very easy. Drones, it doesn't matter. You would probably go after, Berserkers, I think? That's probably what I would throw on a Material, just to deal with the small ships. And then we have our Dark Halo Nanocore with cannon damage. Gonna go with inertial modifier so we can get to warp a little bit quicker. And then we're gonna go with cannon tracking. Cannon tracking is extremely important on the Material. That's what's gonna help it deal with some of those faster frigates. And with that being said, that puts this high-sec fit. Yeah, it definitely includes extra skills. We're showing max skills. So we won't really have that, but I am not going to go through and make every skill 440 or whatever. It's just not worth my time to show that. We'll see that once we're in game. So, our potential here is 4,000 DPS, which is noticeably higher than the Rattlesnake, because the Rattlesnake is having a split DPS. It will deal with things a lot better overall, because missiles will apply to smaller ships easier, we won't have tracking issues, and we're not going to be having range issues either. The Material does have a little bit of that, especially in the tracking. Our tank is just perfectly fine, especially for high sec. But I would not take this ship into Dormant Realms. Even fully tanked, I don't think a Material will comfortably survive Dormant Realm 2. So we're gonna take this and we're gonna copy it. Run it right under here. Yep. And we're gonna change out the fit a little bit. Low slots. We're gonna get rid of all of these DPS modules. We're gonna fit tank. So that means we need another adaptive hardener. We're gonna need a yellow hardener. And we're going to need our damage control. So the fun thing about the Material, and let me go find that real quick. The fun thing about the Material is it gets an extra 5 seconds to its damage control activation. That means instead of the 13 seconds we had on our Rattlesnake, we're getting almost 20 seconds. We're getting 18 seconds on that damage control, which would keep us alive. So you can see here the material is getting a bonus to its warp speed in high sec. That actually makes a huge difference. I have seen materials warping at 11 astronomical units. AU is the term for that. That is ridiculously fast. Most high-sec ships are warping between 6 AU and 4 AU in some cases, but the material itself will be going at 11. Wild. Absolutely wild. We will get damage bonuses to our large cannons and large cannon activation time. We'll also get large cannon tracking speed and accuracy falloff. Yeah, the material could definitely go much higher, especially if you include... the material is actually faster than the Marshal. The Marshal is fast to warp, and it warps at like 9 AU or something like that, but the material is definitely faster in terms of that. Marshal is such a wild ship. I would love to get my hands on more of these. Something we can also consider is whatever ship we choose, we can also eventually end up in their upgraded counterparts. It's absolutely going to be awesome. Alright, so with our Marshal in a fully tanked scenario, we're doing about 3,000 DPS. With the damage control off, we are 76, 79, 84, and 87. Which is a little less tanky than our Rattlesnake, but not by much. Our EHP is 350,000, whereas the Rattlesnake is actually getting 600,000 EHP. With the damage control active, we're at 941,000. And we're at 91%, 92%, 94%, and 95%. We are getting 2,200 EHP per second from our shield booster. So it's not bad, but the Rattlesnake, the material suffers from its low slots being awful. 6 low slots on a battleship really sucks for that battleship. We can also change some of these rigs around to make it more tanky, but we want the DPS on the material. So that would be our fits for the material. Let me know what you think about those. If you think the tank material will survive Dormant Realm 2, let me know. Or if you have a fit for a material that will survive Dormant Realm 2, that is also worth commenting about. Alright, Valgorn, my love. I love the Valgorn. It does not love me back. Not often. Alright, let's spin her. You have two options on the Valgorn. You can either go with the large beam lasers, or you can go with the large pulse lasers. I think the Valgorn should always be a close range ship. It just feels right, you know? It meshes very well with its skill bonuses. So that's why I'm going to go with the large pulse lasers. Let's pull up the Valgorn here. Our first roll bonus here, and our only roll bonus here, is Energy Nosferatu is not limited by the capacitor of the enemy. So, normally, a Nosferatu will only provide you the full bonus of its capability, the full capacitor transfer from the enemy ship to you, if the enemy ship has a larger capacitor or has more capacitor than what your ship currently has. That means when you're in a really close fight, the Nosferatu ends up just slowly draining each ship over time. On the Valgorn, it does not matter. They can have no capacitor, and that Nosferatu is going to absolutely make sure that that enemy ship has nothing. It does not care whether you have one capacitor or if you have maximum capacitor. It will suck you dry. I love the Valgorn. It is one of the most feared ships in the game because of that capability to affect every single ship in the game and absolutely turn every ship into nothing but a pile of scrap because they can't heal themselves. Alright, so our first bonus here, Energy Nosferatu Absorption Efficiency. Hey, just because you can take all of their capacitor, let's make it so it's more effective at taking that capacitor in larger quantities. So that's our first bonus on Electronic Warfare, Advanced Electronic Warfare. Our second bonus here is Energy Neutralizer Neutralizing Effect. That neutralizer is going to nuke anything it comes up to. Nosferatu neutralizing costs the Valgorn capacitor, and then it will attach one of these to you, and suddenly, every, I don't know, like 10 seconds, you're gonna watch your complete capacitor just poof, gone. I love it. Valgorn is easily one of my favorite ships in the game. I flew one of these for a long time before I settled on the Raven Navy issue. I have a video of its bigger brother, the Azazel, on my channel. I love it. Where the Valgorn fails, the Azazel completely makes up for it. Our last bonus on this electronic warfare bonus is Stasis Webifier Optimal Range. This is a very important skill for the Valgorn. The Balgorn is a slow ship. It does not like to move. It's kind of like trying to get up out of bed, but you really don't want to go to work. That's the Balgorn. It's going to struggle. So that web of fire will be able to reach out to 32 kilometers with some of the best web of fires in the game and just hold that enemy there. And being that your lasers will have a range of 36 optimal, that means you can hold them at that range and deal maximum damage. They can't move, they can't escape, and they can't heal. A deadly ship. While a lot of people say the Balgorn isn't so great for PvE, I found it more than capable in my time flying it. Alright, so our second skill here is Advanced Battleship Command, and it will provide us a large laser damage and large laser tracking speed. So now that ship that's out stuck 32 kilometers away trying to escape you by going left or right to try to like outmaneuver your guns, you can track them and you can deal more damage to them. The Balgorn is a PvP nightmare of a ship. Not to be confused with the actual nightmare. I love it. It is one of the few ships in the game that has a lot of lore behind it. It has a lot of player love and fear behind it. And it is absolutely a ship that you must respect. Otherwise, you will die. You don't show up to a Balgorn fight with anything smaller than a capital ship. Hell, even the Balgorn might win. Alright, so let's get to our fit. So we've got all of the pulse lasers, which gives us that 36 kilometer range. For mid-slots, you know we're going to have some Nosferatus. We're going to get two Nosferatus. Because I really like Nosferatus. We're going to grab one Web of Fire. We're going to grab one. Well, that Web of Fire has a 26 kilometer range. Let's find a little bit better one. I think it'd be worth putting like a Republic fleet on there, so we have that 27 kilometer optimal range. What a beautiful, beautiful range on that Web of Fire. Okay, we're also going to grab a Warp Scrambler. Let's make it a Federation Navy, and we're going to get a Warp Disruptor. Now, that's not for high sec. This is going to kind of be a low sec ship. I would still use some of these modules in high sec, but the disruptor is not necessary. You can put anything here. I'm just putting this because if you want to go out to nullsec or lowsec, you're going to need the disruptor and the scrambler. The scrambler for anything up close, the disruptor for anything that's out far. Alright, low slots. We're going to be running double armor repairs. Since we've got some night large armor repairs, we're going to throw those. Yeah, on a Balgorn, you really don't want, like, any damage mods unless you're in high sec only. So we've got 2 armor repairs. We're going to go for 1 armor hardener. And then, since we're in high sec, we're going to run the weapon system. We need heat sinks this time. Which puts us at a pretty respectable 2,263 damage. We've got some rigs here. If you're intending on using this ship in low sec, in null sec, or dormant realms, you would go with all defensive rigs here. You would not do DPS. However, in high sec, what you really want to do is go for these burst aerators. Give you that extra DPS, which puts you on par with the rattlesnake. 3,000 DPS, not bad. Your EHP is a little low. It could definitely use some help, but in the high sec, you really don't need it. And since we are able to take capacitor from anything, we're going to go with semiconductor memory cells. That gives us a much larger capacitor, so we can run harder for longer, while that Nosferatu is not locked onto anything. We do not want the capacitor on this thing. Right, we're gonna throw any kind of drones on here, preferably large drones. Just gonna throw prototype ogres on here. They're fun. So the Balgorn is a armor tanked ship. Armor is a lot harder to tank with sometimes, but it uses a lot less capacitor and gives you a lot more health for what you try to do with it. They do take longer to activate, so instead of like shield boosters where they heal you at the beginning of their cycle, armor repairs will heal you at the end of their cycle. So in this case, the armor repairers are an 8-second activation time rather than a 6-second activation time. And they're going to heal us for 1,038 rather than the 912 that the shield boosters were. So this is kind of like the... Oh, wrong one. Dark Halo. Thank you. This is kind of like the basic high-sec fit for a Valgorn. Though you wouldn't be wrong to grab the armor over the laser damage. We're absolutely going to go flight velocity on this thing. We need to go a little bit faster. We're going to go with laser damage here, which puts us at a respectable 3,300. Sometimes a shield Valgorn is something that exists. It's terrifying, but it's not what you should do with it. Let's go ahead and copy that and look at a tank Valgorn and show you the difference. That's the material. I don't want the material. I want the Valgorn. So it'll use all of the same things, except we're going to remove these heat sinks. This is another one of those battleships with only 6 low slots. Or is it 5? It's 5 low slots. Oof! That's what makes the Valgorn so much weaker in some cases. If it had that extra low slot, it becomes an absolute beast. So we're going to throw on another armor hardener. Adaptive. And then we will go for a damage control. You want a pretty good damage control on the Valgorn. We're also going to remove all of our rigs here. We'll look at our armor. Our weakness in armor is going to be thermal, kinetic, and explosive. So we're going to throw anti-explosive on here, anti-kinetic, and anti-thermal. Some people will go with a fully integrated Valgorn, which will include resistances and buffs to the healing amount and healing activation time. Those are very good Valgorns. Very rarely you will see a shield boosted or an armor boosted Valgorn where it's just boosting the raw amount of armor. Go ahead and grab our kinetic, and we're going to go for our thermal, right? Right. Right, so I've got explosive, kinetic, and now I need thermal. Yeah, that's interesting. Shield amount? Yeah, so this gives the Valgorn 401,000 effective EHP without the damage control active, which is pretty good. It is certainly not a bad amount. I just wish it had that extra low slot so I can put in the reactive hardener. With the damage control active, we are at 1,077,000 EHP. 91, 93, 92, and 91%. It's good, but it just needs something like a low slot. And that's why the Azazel is so much better than the Balgorn. It gets an extra low slot, it gets an extra high slot, and it still keeps all of the same bonuses plus some. Alright. I'm gonna do the Vindicator first because the Nightmare is a little bit special. That's the material again. Alright, Vindicator. You know we're going snub-nosed railguns, and we're going C-type snub-nosed railguns. Already starting off strong. 2,150 DPS without anything else on it. The Vindicator is a DPS monster. And you're going to see this number jump really high compared to everything else. Mid-slots. This is where it comes that we need to actually see the Vindicator. Here we are. Our trait bonuses. We have a roll bonus of Stasis Web of Fire Resistance. That means if we get webified, it will be 25% less effective against us. Our first bonus here, we have large railgun damage and large railgun tracking speed. That means our rigs, we want to go with activation time for our rigs. On our second bonus, we have 10% stasis web of fire speed decrease. That means when we attach our web of fire to an enemy, they will be getting the web of fire plus an extra 50% decrease in their speed from that web of fire. So, not only is the Vindicator going to hold its target in place, but it's going to track them really well, and it is just going to tear them apart faster than they can think. Vindicator is an amazing PvP and PvE ship. Yeah, just amazing that the Azazel gets such good DPS and resistance. The Azazel pretty much makes up for all the wrongdoings they did to the Balgorn. Alright, so next up we have a Stasis Web of Fire range bonus. That means our web of fires are 50% longer range. I like it. And then we have a warp disruptor effective range. That means our warp disruptors are extra long range. So you can grab people and keep them from warping away. So let's go ahead with that information. Let's go into Suite and start fitting up the rest of it. One of the problems with running railguns on the Vindicator, it's not very long range. That's why it needs that web of fire, so it can get up close. That also means this is the only battleship I would ever fit. Personally, I really hate running prop mods That means afterburners, micro warp drives, micro jump drives. I hate running mobility in my low slots. I would rather have more tank and survivability or more DPS. But that's a high sec mentality. In low sec and null sec, prop mods are sometimes the only reason you actually live. And more often than not, it's the only reason that you catch the guy that you kill. So, Vindicator is going to be the only ship that I actually fit an afterburner to. Micro warp drive works as well. The only reason for that is because these snub-nosed railguns have a 10-kilometer optimal range and a 14-kilometer fall-off range. That means you're going to be doing 100% damage as long as you hit and you do like a smashing hit or whatever. You're going to be doing 100% of your effective DPS and damage at 10 kilometers. And then out at 24 kilometers, you're at half effectiveness on that. I have seen a lot of people also use the large rifled railguns on a Vindicator. I just don't think it's the right answer. I think if you have a very specific target where you know that guy is going to be trying to run away at max distance all the time, and you just can't quite catch up to him, then the rifled railguns make sense. But for PvE, the snub-nosed railguns are gonna do a lot better work for you. Alright, mid-slots. We are instantly gonna get ourselves a Nosferatu. The Vindicator uses up a lot of capacitor, and so we're actually gonna need 2 Nosferatus. I mean, it's not that bad, but it's still bad enough where you could find yourself out of capacitor. The reason for that being is these rifled railguns are going to be chewing through your capacitor because they require capacitor to actually fire. It's not a horrible amount, 12 gigajoules for every 5 seconds, which will actually get a lot faster as we fit this Vindicator. But you are going to need that extra Nosferatu in high sec. And then we will grab a Web of Fire. Interdiction, Web of Fire. Grab the best Web of Fire you can get your hands on. You can see here we're at 20 kilometers Web of Fire distance and an 88.5% flight velocity adjustment. That means when this Web of Fire is attached to an enemy, that enemy is flying 88.5% slower. Compare that to something like what I have on the Material, which that Web of Fire is only doing a 59% flight velocity adjustment, which is why we have to have 2 of them to try to make up for that tracking speed on the Material. The Material is a fast ship, so sometimes it's even out-traversing its own guns, which can cause a problem for it. Having those 2 Web of Fires and being able to go straight away from a target is what keeps it from having tracking issues. The Vindicator does that with just one web of fire. That second web of fire on the material is actually is not getting that 59%. It's getting like 40% or 43% or 45%, somewhere in there, because it gets a reduced effectiveness for having multiple modules attached to the same ship. Now, if you separate those, and one is on one ship and one is on a completely different ship, they are both doing their maximum amount. But when both of them are attached to the same ship, you get a reduced effectiveness for the second module. The Vindicator doesn't have that problem. It does all of that effectiveness with just one web of fire. And at a range of 20 kilometers. Very nice. Alright, our last one here is going to be a Disruptor, because that gets a range bonus. Normally, I would run a Scrambler in high sec, just to turn off micro warp drives and stuff, but that web of fire, essentially the same problem. Or the same solution to that problem. So we're just going to grab any Disruptor, and it has a 39 kilometer range on that Disruptor. Crazy. Low slots. We're going double armor repairs again. We're going to grab those Knight armor repairs again. I could go C-type on here, but on my alphas, I already have Knight armor repairs, so that's what I would transfer over. Okay. What else do we need? I'm thinking we need that afterburner or micro warp drive. I'm more partial to a afterburner. Which will give us a normal speed. Where is it in here? 179. With the afterburner, we're having 495. You can also have the micro warp drive if you want to pulse it for one activation. The one activation will probably bring you somewhere up to about 500 meters a second rather than the 495. It could end up higher with a better inertia modifier. But in doing so, you make yourself a gigantic target and you reduce your capacitor by 25%. So with the micro warp drive off, it is not affecting our signature radius, but when we turn it on, we have a 1,600 signature radius. That means literally anything can hit us and do full damage. Capital torpedoes, no problem. You had better be moving with this thing on. So speaking of the micro warp drive, with a micro warp drive on your ship, you will have a 13,395 capacity. If you remove it and you don't have it on there, you have a 17,860 capacity. 25% of your capacitor, poof, just for having a micro warp drive. And that is why I like afterburners. Afterburners are also not turned off when there is a scrambler on you. Afterburners are superior. You can see here, with that afterburner active and the 2 armor repairs going, you have 11 minutes to try to deal with whatever it is that you've got going on. You turn off the afterburner, it's fine. You can always run the 2 armor repairs. Just make sure you're on a target with both of your Nosferatus. And that's without engineering rings. So let's go ahead and fit up engineering rings real quick. On this ship, it's really a toss-up what you want to do. You could go with absolutely increasing the heck out of your capacitor, or you can get a better capacitor control recharge time. Both are good options. Both are very good options. I think you'll get more out of the recharge rate than you would with the capacitor amount. So let's go ahead and turn that on and turn the Nosferatus off. Without the Nosferatus, you get 7 minutes. With one Nosferatu, you get 31 minutes. Very good. I mean, that is really, really good. And that is running these modules hard. Alright, let's keep going. So we've got our afterburner. We don't really need more tank in high sec. We're getting plenty. I mean, there's not many things that can kill it double armor repair. But let's go ahead and throw on armor hardener, just for that little bit of extra tank. Pretty good. It's not the best, but it is only high sec. And this is what I mean by I really hate running a prop mod like an afterburner or a micro warp drive, because we could be getting a much better tank out of this. I just really hate running afterburners and micro warp drives in general. I have flown the Vindicator for about 4 months until I swapped over to the Valhorn. In my time with the Vindicator, I found that without the prop mod, you end up just not having enough applied DPS, and it just takes you a really long time to try to get within range of whatever spawns in an anomaly or in an encounter. That's why that my experience tells me the afterburner is necessary for the Vindicator. We're going to go with a couple of damage modules here. These use magnetic field stabilizers. Gonna throw on some C-types. You'll see our DPS is now up to 2,805. Which by now, most of the other ships would be at like 3,000. But we haven't even touched the combat rates. Let's get an activation time on here. And now we're sitting at 4,000. Very nice. It's not the highest thing that you could have here. Dark Halo. Let's throw on railgun damage. I'm tempted to throw on the flight velocity here to bring it from 176 up to 206. Or if you really want to go into it, bring it up to like 214. In which your afterburner will then bring you up to 594. That really solves a lot of the Vindicator's mobility issue. But 214 with such short range guns, is still not good enough, and you're still gonna need that afterburner. And then let's go ahead and throw on our last thing here. Now here's an option. Do you go railgun damage or do you go railgun tracking speed? If this was optimal range, I would go optimal range. But since we're gonna be close range, we're gonna need the tracking speed. That's what I would do. The health and the armor is really nothing to be surprised about. But stat-wise, the Vindicator comes out as sort of like, yeah, the Nestor is amazing with a micro warp drive. Stat-wise, the Vindicator kinda has a problem. It fits almost perfectly within all of the other ships. It's a ship of extremes, I guess I should say. It has wild DPS when you fit it for DPS, but it has no tank, which normally you'd say, well, yeah, you're fitting for DPS. 6 low slots isn't enough for the Vindicator. It needs 7 because of that afterburner. If you drop that afterburner and you go tank, you're now still not getting enough out of it. I mean, 239. Like, I don't know. It just feels not good enough on the tank, especially when you're so slow. You have to lose one of your low slots to try to make up for that. And you have such short range. But once you're in that range, you start really doing some damage. So that's the Vindy. That's the Vindicator. It's not impressive other than the high DPS. Yeah, definitely if you're going to integrate this thing, it's going to be a tank integration. It's not going to be for DPS. Let's go ahead and make a clone of that. We're going to look at a full tank Vindicator, which doesn't care about its DPS. We're still going to go with the railguns, the snub-nosed railguns, but we're going to be removing our DPS modules here. We're going to throw on another armor hardener and a damage control. Wait, do I have 2 armor hardeners? No, I have 1. We're also going to remove this afterburner because we're going full tank and we don't care. It's not a smart idea. This would be fine in, like, Dormant Realms, maybe? Here you're starting to see the EHP come up a little bit, but we're still only at 285. 285,000. All of the other ships that we've looked at in a tank-based fit, I mean, let's have hit over 300,000. Let's fit defense rate here. Let's go explosive, just to try to close that hole. Now we're at 346. So that's reasonable. Now we're on par with literally everything, but we don't have range. So what do? We go for an arm bit extension, and we go for 2 of them. Maybe we just do 1. Let's see. That gives us a 27 kilometer range. Still not good enough. We need to be 30, 32. And I'm gonna grab a nano pump, I think. don't know. Do I want a nano pump or do I want a capacitor safeguard? I think I'd rather have the capacitor. Accelerator, nano pump, augmenter. Yeah, that's the one. Just for that better capacitor need. We're not going to need the flight velocity here, so we're going to go for extra armor. And now we're looking pretty good. But look at how far you have to go just to do what the others have done. And you still just can't reach out and deal with ships beyond 27 kilometers. Your web of fire, which you're relying on, is only 20 kilometers. Even if you, like, spent 300 million ISK, let's pull up a Predator stasis web of fire. 22.2 kilometers. It's not enough. Your guns shoot farther than this. Even without the extra range. I have a hard time trying to understand the Vindicator's capabilities in some cases. I have seen them be extraordinarily successful in PvP. But when all of the other ships can do what this thing does much easier and much more comfortably, it just becomes hard to vindicate the Vindicator. I don't know how much better the upgraded version of the Vindicator is. That would be the Annihilator. It gets longer web of fire range, and it's meant to use a micro warp drive. It still has that 6 low slots. It has an extra mid slot, but like, eh, it's just not quite there. So our last ship that we're going to be looking at today, we've got the Nightmare. Wonderful ship, especially in a fleet. But it's got some problems. Actually, quite a few problems, to be fair. The Nightmare is one of the few ships that is considered mainly a fleet-based ship. You can see here the first thing we have is a shield field module. What those are... where is it under? Shield command burst? No, it's under tactical, isn't it? what those are, let's read through it. Shield Field Module increases your shield range, covering the surrounding of all ships and protecting them from attacks. You cannot warp with this active. What it doesn't tell you is it will absorb the damage from all ships that you're protecting and put it onto you with a extra resistance modifier here. And it uses fuel. The large shield field module gives you 21% shield resistance while active, and locks you from warping, and it reduces your flight velocity by 50%. It has an activation time of 120 seconds. That means you're going to be stuck from warping for 2 minutes, and it has a reactivation delay of 60 seconds. So when you turn it off, you have to wait 60 seconds, and then you can turn it back on. Otherwise, it will just keep activating. It balloons out to 22.5 kilometers, which is quite large. And that is one of the modules we will have to put on here. If you go with like a medium, it's going to give you a 14% resistance with a 62% flight velocity adjustment. A small will only give you 15% resistance with a 75% flight velocity adjustment. I think with the way that we are playing, wow, they find a different way to do that. Coffee. Give me a minute. I need to fix something. Alright. I now have that blocked. Annoyance. Alright, so we're gonna fit one of these. Let's go back to our ships. I think for our small fleet of 3 ships, we would either go with a medium or a large, especially if we consider doing Dormant Realms. And only one of our ships would actually need it. Alright, the Nightmare. Our first bonus here is large laser damage. You think small for Dormant Realm? Okay. But I do like the extra resistance of the large. 21% is way better than the 17 or whatever. 14, 15. whatever the medium was. Yeah, I'm just thinking about the resistance value. Because if we're flying 3 Nightmares, in Dormant Realm, we're not going to be killing NPCs, we're just going to be DPSing the towers. But I guess you're right. Because it only blocks things if they're outside of the bubble. They completely ignore it if they're inside the bubble. Anyway, so we've got 15% large laser damage and 7.5% large laser tracking speed per level. We have 6 high slots, compared to the usual 8. Which means we're going to see a lot lower DPS than something like the Valgorn, but we're still not going to be bad. And we also have another bonus here, which is 30% afterburner speed increase and 5% shield per level. So 25% extra shield and 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 150% afterburner speed increase. This is the one battleship where I actually like having an afterburner, because it makes it fast. I love it. Alright, now that we've gone through that, let's go ahead and fit one. Nightmare. There's really only one fit for the Nightmare, but we can flex that quite a bit since we're in high sec and or considering Dormant Realms with this. So with the afterburners, you have two choices. You can either go long range or you can go the short range. Even with short range lasers, you're gonna have fine tracking. So I think I'll throw the large pulse lasers on here. What is that? Oh. I think the large pulse lasers are fine. We're definitely gonna have a shield field module. Best one we're probably gonna afford is the Caldari Navy if we can get our hands on it. Otherwise, it'll be like a Mark 9 or a Mark 7. 12% shield res for having that. Okay. We're also going to grab... I think I want to grab a large Nosferatu. I don't really know if I'll need it. Yeah, I'll probably grab the large Nosferatu and a web of fire or a target painter. Probably target painter since we're going to be 40 kilometers away. Target painters make the target that you're shooting at larger in size, making it easier for your guns to track and hit. Next up are 7 low slots. That is a lot of low slots. And this is the reason why I don't mind the Afterburner on the Nightmare. The Nightmare gets one extra low slot than the Vindicator. So that low slot goes straight to having the Afterburner. You get a massive bonus to that Afterburner as well. So we definitely want to have a C-type Afterburner. Our normal speed is 169, but with the Afterburner, we are going 946. And this will be active for as long as you can stay around 40 kilometers away from your target. In this case, it's actually 36 within 11 kilometer fall off. So we're probably going to be looking at like a 35 kilometer range for all that tracking. By going as fast as we are, it's going to negate damage from missiles and slower targeting ships like battleships. Okay, we're going to go for a large shield booster. Do you run double shield boosters on your Nightmare? Or do you just run the one? I think this will be enough here. That's funny. Oh no, the gate guns got him. Nice. Okay, so something to note here. We are already at 232,000 EHP. This took the Vindicator a lot more to try to do. We only have... We don't even have this shield field module active. And we have the one invulnerability. You use 3 shield boosters? Good lord. I guess this thing can do it. If it's one of the few ships that probably should do it. Three boosters, 3 red, and 1 yellow. Yeah, that's pretty much the full tank build right there. I'm surprised you don't need a, Oh, are you using that one implant that gives you, like, infinite capacitor? Is that why you're able to run the 3 boosters? Yeah, doesn't that one give you the infinite capacitor? Huh. Ah, okay. Alright, so with 2 invulnerability fields, an afterburner, and a large shield booster, which has only used up 4 of our 7 low slots. We are now at 285,000 EHP without the shield field module active. Let's go ahead and flop on some weapon upgrades here. Once again, we're going with heat sinks because it's lasers. And we are in high sec, just remember. In low sec and null sec, you would not run these modules. Oh, where the heck did it go? Heatsink. We're not going to show with the boost here. Right, so currently we're at almost 2,000 DPS with 285,000 EHP. We haven't done our combat rigs yet. You'll notice I think this thing comes with a natural shield resistance? No, it does not. Okay. You notice that we're already, like, having a much better time. Let's go ahead and throw on an EM reinforcer. That brings us to 70% across the board, pretty much. I would probably throw on a thermal as well. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then I would go for probably like shield HP. This ship is not a DPS ship. It is definitely going to be full tank. So while we don't have a damage control on here, which I probably should. Yeah, let's just go ahead and throw a damage control. It's so important. I mean, we're already with 2 damage modules at 490,000 EHP. Yeah, capacitor's at 8 minutes right now without the engineering rigs. Stable without. 890, 810. Yeah, that's such a nice laser implant to have. We're gonna go with laser damage here, just to make up some weakness here. I kinda want the shield on here. Flight velocity of 10%, which now brings us up to 993. And then we'll go laser tracking. It's just really tanky. Yeah, what I want to see with the Nightmare is I want to see the equivalent of the special battleships that we got. Hell, the Anubis exists. Why can't we have a specialty Nightmare? You know how crazy that thing would be? Like, just imagine it got, like, another low slot. Or another mid slot. Yeah, I think everyone would want it. So, with this fit, let's go ahead and turn on the damage control. 1,435,000 EHP, and we're not even done yet. This is the same effective hit points as the Rattlesnake, but the Rattlesnake has 500 more DPS, 1,000 more DPS. Let's go ahead and turn on that shield field module. Now we have 1,584,000 EHP. With 92%, 93%, 92%, 94%. We're still cap stable, but barely. If we turn off our afterburner, it's not so bad. 700 meters a second is not bad. Let me see if it's any better with semiconductor. It is. So we're at 21% versus 35, so it's really not that much better. Anyway, so this is the fit we would use as a high set fit. More or less DPS for the Nightmare. It's not meant to do PvE. It is meant to be in a fleet protecting them. It's a fun ship, no doubt. It looks awesome. But it's a hard choice between some of these other ships. Yes, the Fiend. We need the Nightmare equivalent of the Fiend. Okay, let's go ahead and look at our last fit, which will be just changing 2 modules. One is change. Actually, we're going to change a few modules. We're going to get rid of this target painter. We're going to grab a group shield booster. We're also going to go down here into the heat sinks. We're going to remove those. We're gonna go with, we've got a damage control, we've got 1 invulnerability, 2 invulnerability, a shield booster, and an afterburner. So let's go with a yellow. And let's go with another shield booster, I think. Or an extender. I might want an extender. No? No extender? Oh, the generator. Is that even in here? Yeah, they don't have it in here. Oh, there they are. I don't understand how shield generators work. I've never had one and I've never used one. That's why I'm hesitant to put one on. Okay. So I see a shield boost amount bonus. Emergency shield recharge. So is the generator kind of like a shield extender, but with a boost to shield amount? Like an extender, but with like a bonus to the shield boost amount? Is that what I'm looking at? Okay, cool. I wasn't really sure how they worked previously, so thank you. Even I learned something today. Alright, so this thing's not exactly working accurately because it's not calculating for the extra shield recharge, but you can see now we're at 2 million EHP with that damage control active. Let me go ahead and turn off the damage control. We're at 739,000. Let me check my combat ranks. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. That's just crazy. That's a lot of tank. And all that tank can happen, and you're going 700 meters a second. It's a good ship. It's a great fleet ship. It just doesn't do any anomalies or encounters very quickly. Just to see how crazy it gets, you want to see the B types. Well, if I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna change this to a all round. Hell, for the hell of it, why don't we just throw on X type? we'll never fly anything like this, but yeah, it's just crazy. 2,400,000. I need that yellow. Where'd that yellow go? Adaptive, damage, adaptive, adaptive. Yeah, it's just good. I would never fly one of these fits, other than as a support to just to support like my other two ships in Dormant Realm. But we're not locked into doing all one kind of ship. We have the option to fly multiple ships if you want to see it. God, you've spent so much money on getting those weapons and stuff. But that's the idea. That's what we're going to be looking at coming up in the next 2 months. These are the fits that I want to put into action and run through Tech 8, run through Tech 9 and 10. Um, it's your choice what you want to see me fly. I am most interested in the Rattlesnake. It's got it's got really good damage resistance. It does what it needs. We can fit more if we have to. It's got plenty of DPS, and it's very comfortable to use. The other ship that I would probably actively consider would be like the Balgorn or the Macario, maybe? I don't know. I know the Balgorn could do Dormant Realm. Um, the Rattlesnake can do Dormant Realm. The Vindicator and the Macario will suffer, and there's just no point in flying 3 Nightmares. In the end of it all, it's awesome that we can have the option to fly a faction battleship as soon as we touch Tech 8. Right now, I mean 2.7 for Rattlesnake, that's reasonable. We're looking at 2.7 on a Material. We're looking at 3 billion on Balgorn, 3 billion on a Nightmare, and 3.1 billion on a Vindicator. Whatever ship you choose that you want to see, just let me know. There's a poll up in the YouTube channel. So, go vote. Go control what I do for the next 6 months of Tier 8 to Tech 10. Yeah, the advanced versions are so much more expensive now. I would really like to get my hands on the Cobra. I think the Cobra would be awesome to have. We even get an extra high slot. We get an extra high slot and an extra mid slot on the Cobra. Which just means more tank. The extra high slot is only for the missile launcher bomb, so I'm not excited about that. I wish it could be an actual weapon. The Marzio, fantastic battleship, by the way. 12 seconds of damage control on top of the already 12 seconds that the damage controls have. Awesome. It even has a cloak to me as a Cyto ship. The Marzio is a perfect PvP ship, in my opinion. So is the Azazel. But the Azazel gets the rapid fire technology. And oh boy, that turns the Azazel into a monster. I did a whole video series on the Anubis looking at how to make it work. And it's just... There's been a few changes since I did my videos, but the videos haven't changed it in its effectiveness. The Anubis is still good, but it's lacking. The Annihilator... Let's see, is it still just as slow? Yeah. But it gets the micro warp drive. Yeah, it's definitely... The Anubis is a capital ship hunter. You would not use the Anubis for anything other than hunting capital ships and battleships. I wish I could make... What is it? 26 billion for Nestor now. I wish our alphas had the money to get enough of these. But that ain't even worth it. Alright. Well, I will be leaving that there for today. I do have a Discord that you can join. It is linked on YouTube and Twitch. So join in, anyone tier 1 through tier 10. If you want to join in, leave your comments, leave your thoughts, whatever you're doing, share your fits. Have fun. I really wanted to do this video because we're about 2 months away from our alphas being Tech 8 and the capability to buy the next big grand ship And I wanted to give you guys the chance to see what I would do with the ships, and then take that information and tell me what you want me to do. Because I'd like for you guys to be interested and feel involved in what's going on with the next series. At least to the point where it's making a decision on the ship, and me having to work around what we get. My opinion is going to be the Rattlesnake is the best option for us. It can do Dormant Realms easily. It does really good in high-sec PvE. And it can just grind without care. It also will go very nicely into Tech 9, where we can step into a Dominix. And then at Tech 10, we'll have access to all of the drone ships. But at Tech 10, we will also be stepping into capital ships. So thank you all so much for coming. I appreciate every single one of you for joining and following the channel and just hanging out, having fun, leaving your comments. I can't thank you enough. It means the world to me. I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you, and it's awesome. Thank you so much. I will see you on the next one. Take care and be safe.